Here to discuss this angle of the story is Irene Garcia, former LA Times reporter and currently with Judicial Watch. Irene, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Judicial Watch found out some very disturbing details from a reliable source at Homeland Security.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this? What did you guys find out?
Yes, that not all the kids that are coming are little kids. A lot of them are 16, 17-year-olds, possibly with criminal backgrounds, ties to gangs in this country. We've spoken to a couple people pretty high-ranking in Homeland Security. Some of the stuff that's going on in a Nogales camp that's housing older teens, a lot of sexual activity among the male and the females, diseases that a lot of these Border Patrol agents are concerned are going to maybe bring back home to their families.
Now, we take a look at this, and since I used to represent Arizona in the Congress, I've been to that Nogales station, and I've seen firsthand the porous border. But the obvious question is this: how did so many children, so many unaccompanied children, come, quote, from Central America through Mexico, which ironically is supposed to have very tough security on its own southern border, to end up in the United States? Would any of your contacts at Homeland Security go so far as to say there was coordination from this administration and this government to get those young illegals to our border?
Some of our contacts did say that there was some coordination. Also, I've monitored Central American news, and these Central American newspapers in Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador are actually quoting their foreign diplomats that are here in this country, going on the record, saying that U.S. immigration officials have made a deal with them to allow these kids in. In fact, one Guatemalan consulate in Arizona said that they've allocated a certain amount of money to open more consulates on the southern border, and that the children, if they bring their original birth certificates, will be processed quicker. So there's some backdoor deals going on that the American public is not being told about.
Now, I know that actually the official line is that they're telling the governments of these different countries, no, do not send your people here. We will deport them. We will send them back. That's not necessarily what's going on. And you told me a very interesting story backstage that I'd really like to share.
Yes, Spain's largest news agency, EFE, which is the fourth largest news agency in the world, published a story that was just downright alarming. A woman from Honduras, 24-year-old, told her story. It was an anecdotal story on how she came from, from Guatemala, made it to Mexico, and was going to hire coyotes, which are human smugglers, and that even the human smugglers in Mexico told her La Migra, immigration, U.S. immigration is letting women with minor children like you, she had a 2- and a 4-year-old, cross into the United States. And sure enough, this woman went on the record, and she's in Florida now. They actually transferred her to Florida with her 2 children. She said it took her 15 minutes, and this is a story that was translated into English and posted by Senator Jeff Sessions' staff.
So what we are seeing is not benign neglect on the border, but an effort to expedite the illegal entry of both accompanied and unaccompanied minors. There's one other thing, Irene, that keeps coming up, and we hear it from so much of the Washington press corps. I call it the myth of the noble migrant. Yes. That these people only want to come here and only want to work, and why, look at these children, they're so well behaved. You mentioned El Salvador, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the most notorious gangs, MS-13, yes, which now has a foothold in major American cities from Los Angeles to the Capital Beltway in suburban Maryland. MS-13 is very active. And I would presume that some of these kids from El Salvador are linked up with MS-13.
Absolutely. The Border Patrol officials that we've spoken to, pretty high-ranking, have said that it's clear that some of the quote-unquote kids, the minors, the youth, yes, technically they're minors because they're not 18, some of them they don't know. These Border Patrol officials said some of these guys are bigger than we are. Like, we don't even know how old these kids are. Some of them do not have documentation. Yet the United States claims they're going to process them. They're going to be in these camps, in these shelters for a few months. They're going to teach them English. They're going to give them recreational time, and then they're going to relocate them somewhere in the United States with relatives. Ultimately, the White House official version is they will ultimately be removed. But that process will not be taking place in the immediate future.
So, you know, we see all these photos and we are led to believe it's young children. That's not necessarily the case. In theory, they're fleeing gang violence, but a lot of them are gang members that are coming over here. I mean, is this reminiscent of the Mariellas from Cuba back in the day?
Yeah, in 1981, when Jimmy Carter allowed Fidel Castro to open his jails and send people over, I lived in South Florida. I was in high school at the time. I saw it personally. It had a huge impact.
So they're sending their undesirables to
They're
us.
sending their undesirables. And a lot of them, yes, I think that the mainstream media has done a great job of taking pictures of the little kids that look vulnerable and they're all dirty, and we got to give this kid shelter and food, and they have little blankets, and some of them have stuffed animals. And New York Times had a picture with a kid and a stuffed animals, but the reality is much different. There's another part to this story, and it's crucial.
You used to work for the LA Times, so you know about mass media and you know the political orientations of so many newsrooms in the dominant media culture. We're not the media, we're Newsmax, so we're going to bring the straight story with what's going on here, Irene. The other thing that is quite public is our Attorney General, Eric Holder, saying that they're going to find lawyers for these kids to go to immigration court. So when all is said and done, do you have any estimate of how many American tax dollars will go to help this administration violate our immigration law?
Yeah, it's insanity. And I can tell you that at a White House informational press briefing that I participated in via telephone this week, high-ranking officials in the administration said they were going to ask Congress for $2 billion just to take care of this immediate, not including the legal stuff. And sure enough, the Senate approved $1.9 billion just yesterday, just to take care of the immediate food, shelter, opening military bases to house them. So the legal component is probably going to up that tab quite a bit.
$2 billion, and we know with chain migration and entitlements, the Heritage Foundation has put the long-term estimate in the trillions of dollars. This issue is related to every other issue we confront in terms of national security and entitlements. And Irene Garcia, we thank you for coming by with largely the untold story in your role with Judicial Watch. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Morgan, we also thank you for bringing this story to the anchor desk. And now we want to hear from you. $2 billion to house illegals, and they're not all, quote, innocent children coming into the country. Tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. You can also email us, connect@newsmaxtv.com, and there's also Facebook.